next concept that we want to see in the discussion of turbulent flow is that of turbulent shear stress. Now, in prior discussions where we talked about laminar flow or in general the understanding of what is the relationship between shear stress and velocity gradient, we always talked about the contribution of viscosity. Okay, that is, here is what we knew. We knew that viscosity is defined as the constant that relates the shear stress and the velocity gradient in a flow. This is what we knew, and this is called as Newton's law of viscosity. Newton's law of viscosity. This is true. This is always true in a fluid in which there are molecules that are shearing past one another. That is, if you have a flow with a velocity profile, okay, you have molecules here that are moving fast, but here they are faster. So as a result, these molecules are pulled back by the ones that are slow movers. That is, the slow movers always pull back on the fast movers. The ultimate slow mover is the one that is at rest. So if you have a wall, the wall exerts a force or a resistance on the flow that causes successive layers to slow down, and that's what we call as the viscous shear stress. So one of the sources of viscous shear, or one of the sources of shear stress, is the resistance to momentum flow due to molecular collisions or interactions, By interactions, I mean the pulling of the molecules, the pulling of the fast movers by the slow movers. That's what I call as molecular interactions, which is what we call as viscosity. That's what we call as viscosity. In turbulent flows, in the case of turbulent flows, let's say you have a layer that is fast moving at the top and ends up being slow moving at the bottom, because let's say there is a wall here, you have a flow coming in, the flow is slowed down at the wall, it is not slowed down as much away from the wall. So you have, let's say, a turbulent flow based on the velocity, there is enough kinetic energy for transition to turbulence. We have successive layers, okay, are still, the velocity is changing, but because there is wide scale fluctuations in the flow, that is, you have these cross mixing and transport perpendicular to the direction of principal flow, what you have is turbulent shear stresses or additional shear stresses due to turbulent mixing. That is, in addition, the total shear stress is a laminar or a viscous component that is related to molecular collisions, and then a turbulent component that is related to the eddies and the mixing and the chaos in the flow. So we call this as the turbulent shear stress and this as viscous stress or viscous shear stress. Okay, the levels of shear stress in a turbulent flow are usually much higher than that of a viscous flow. In some contexts, you can also think of it as a flow becomes turbulent if there is too much energy to be dissipated, that one mechanism is not enough. It's like nature almost switches upon a second mechanism to dissipate the excess kinetic energy. Ultimately, this shear stress is about taking away kinetic energy per unit volume, which is what we call as force per area or pressure. Ultimately, it dissipates the kinetic energy of the molecules, which is what we call as the bulk velocity. It is dissipated by viscous shear. Now just think of turbulence as a flow with too much kinetic energy, that this channel for dissipating the kinetic energy is not enough. The flow opens up additional channels which are the turbulent modes or the turbulent velocity fluctuation. So understanding the relationship between turbulent shear stress and pressure drop is one of the primary goals of this. That is the relationship between tau and pressure drop and the velocity profile or the velocity gradient is an important part of fluid mechanics analysis, which is discussed in unit 6, where we try to calculate the flow profile, and from that we obtain the velocity profiles, and from that we obtain the total shear stress, which is made up of both viscous components and the shear components. We won't go further into how to calculate the shear component, but you should be aware that the shear stress is due to two reasons. One is molecular collisions or viscous interactions, and the other is large scale motion, which is turbulent shear stress. Unlike how we calculated the velocity profile for a laminar flow, we were able to calculate this by doing a control volume analysis. For turbulent flow, we rely mostly on experiments or advanced CFD calculations. So we really won't go into the micro details of how we get that, but what you should know is an empirical fact. The turbulent velocity profile is typically modeled as the mean velocity divided by the centerline velocity is 1 minus r over r power 1 over n. Typically a function like this is used to fit experimental data for the mean velocity of a turbulent flow as a function of the radial distance in the pipe. So if you have a pipe and this is your r, this is the radius, the mean velocity of the pipe can be fit. It's a fit of experimental data. This is not coming from any theory or equation. It's something that fits the data, and such velocity profiles can be found in figure 8.18. So I ask you to take a look at figure 8.18. For different values of n, you can see how the shape of the velocity profile changes. Whereas for a laminar flow, you may remember, the velocity profile is 1 minus r squared over r squared. This is a different function than this one. Even if you put n equals 2, it's not the same function, or n equals 0.5, it's not the same function. Okay, this is parabolic, whereas that is a power law. Okay, so we have this velocity profile that is measured from experiment, and through our examples during the lecture, we will solve some examples. We will see how the profile shape varies. Okay.